is Rachel Dodd, Assistant Director for the First Year Experience and Family Programs Office. We are excited to have this webinar for you, and I hope that you'll find it educational and also engaging and interactive. We look forward to making sure you have all of your answers, all the answers to all of your questions tonight before you log off. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce tonight's speaker. We have Rebecca Sturgill, who's the Director of the Center for Academic Success, and she's going to speak about all the different academic resources on campus to assist your students. So thank you very much, and I will welcome Rebecca.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate that. Hi, my name is Rebecca Sturgill, and I am hoping at some point that I will get a chance to meet your students. When people ask me what I do, basically our point here at Longwood is to make sure that your students achieve the academic success that they wish to have in each of their classes. I try very hard not to set a level for students. Sometimes success is an A. Sometimes success may not be quite an A, and yet it's still a success for the student. So that's where we want to be. In terms of what our office does, we work with the tutoring on campus. We also house the Writing Center and the Speaking Center. I take care of students who are in academic trouble as Longwood sees it, so students who are on probation. And basically talk with any student who wants special guidance in terms of how to study, how to think about preparing for tests. I'll talk to students about just about anything. I do time management, a little bit of everything. So first thing I wanted to do was to let you all know where we are physically on campus and where we are on our website. I'm always surprised that students sometimes have a harder time finding us than I would love to see. Most of the students will come down here to current students. They can click, a drop-down menu shows up. The Center for Academic Success is there, and it goes straight to our website. I'm going to take you all through academics, which is another way for us to get there. And if you scroll down, there is our Center for Academic Success. And here on the left are the general pieces to what we do. I'm going to tackle the Writing Center first, I believe. I can tell you that our timings, when a session is there, those are all correct. Basically, our hours are Sundays from 7 to 10 in the evening. We used to try a little bit earlier, but quite frankly, students didn't come. So we decided to sort of switch hours around a little bit. And then Monday through Thursday, we have 2 in the afternoon till 10 o'clock at night. A lot of times, students, sometimes our faculty, are less than familiar with what the Writing Center will do. This is not an editing service. They don't get to drop off papers, walk away, and have us bleed all over them with a red pen. It doesn't work that way. The purpose for the Writing Center is to improve the student's writing, to work alongside the professor, and be helping to shore that student up wherever they feel they need something, wherever their faculty members may feel that they need something. So a lot of times students will come and ask me, what can happen in the Writing Center? Can you help me with grammar? Or what if I don't know what I want to write on? Can you help me with that? I tell them we do pretty much everything, soup to nuts. While I agree that it's a really good idea to talk with your professor about topics, our writing consultants will brainstorm with the student. We encourage them to help students work on a strong thesis statement and then work through the paper and make sure that the paper is well organized. When I chat with my friends on the faculty about what they would love to see as writing improvements in their students, one of the things that almost everybody mentions first is organization. So we've asked our writing consultants to be really, really aware of that, and even if the student doesn't ask for that, to be looking at that, to be considering that. They will certainly work on grammar, they will work on citation style, they will pretty much do anything. In terms of where they are, we try to make ourselves as accessible as possible. The Writing Center, and in fact the entire staff, is located in the library. Hopefully all of the students know where the library is. We have a main room on the ground floor that has a lot of computers in it. It also has DVDs and CDs. Usually a student's face will light up when I say that because they pretty much know where those are. But the main room and the downstairs, we're up against the back wall. So when they come in, they should be able to see our offices along the back. And the Writing Center is in room 155. It has a sign over top of it, as does the rest of the center. We have, again, tried to make the center and coming to the center and working with the center as comfortable and as convenient as possible. While it is possible to work remote, and we can do that, it is often less, not quite as optimal for the student, quite frankly. We will do it. And we work that for our satellite areas as well. But we allow students to either call ahead and make an appointment, or they can just walk in. So as they're looking here at our hours and contact information, you can give a call, and even if there's no one in, let's say they woke up at 9 o'clock in the morning, decide that afternoon that they're going to want to go to the Writing Center, they can call, leave a message on this number, and then as soon as someone comes in at 2 o'clock, they'll give them a call back and schedule one. Okay? I'm not going to show you our writing consultants because honest and truly they're kind of out of date. So I'm sorry about that. We are going to work on that. When we come back to tutoring, whoa, yeah, looks like we really do kind of need to make this more spring 2016. I apologize for that. Our tutoring does last all semester. Typically, it's going to go up until the last week of the semester, and at that point, we talk with each of the tutors to see kind of what the last week of the semester looks like for them. The tutors that we use are our own students. These are some examples that we actually asked them to hold still while we snapped a couple pictures. So these are folks that your student may see around campus. They have classes just like everybody else has classes, and so that last week of the semester, there may be tutoring for particular things, there may not. If your student wants to come and there's no tutoring, they can always come and talk with me. If they're looking for something and they don't see a course listed that they really would like, you can hit this button and request extra help. We do have help for the praxis. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, but we've got lots and lots of resources, both for the praxis and for the VLA. These are both tests that students who are planning to go into education at any level, K through 12, are going to need to complete. So we can help them out there. What I've been kind of holding off on here is coming back and looking at our blog. So this is kind of a change up from the way we've done it in years past. It's going to allow us to be a little bit quicker at making changes. Hopefully now we've settled down for the semester. And as you can say here, woohoo, we have got the right semester going on. We do suggest that students check time, location, days. Things do change. Yeah, I wish I had an explanation for that, but the best I can say is sometimes things change. But what this will do is give them the listing of the course. It will give them their tutor's name. It will give them the location, the building as well as the room, the time, and then the days. And as you can see, we've got accounting and economics from business. We've got all of the science levels from the General Education 101 all the way up through the major requirements and the anatomy phys. With chemistry, likewise, we go everywhere from the gen ed up through organic chemistry. We have right now 2 different listings for organic chemistry. We're doing curricular change. So in case your student is confused, they can talk with their professor, they can come talk with us, and we can make sure that they're getting to the right wizard session there. We've got computer science, we've got all of the languages, history, the lower level math courses, physics, there's the Spanish. We've broken Spanish out into several different levels. Not entirely certain why these are out of alphabetical order, but this is our environmental science. We do have that. And I promised that I would come back and talk about the praxis. You can see here it says tutor search ongoing. The young lady who did it for us last semester is student teaching now, and so not quite as available as she was before. If your student is having lots of questions on the praxis math, they can come and talk with me. We do have a number of different resources for them. Okay. So one last thing that your student may be interested in, sometimes I wonder if I should mention this, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. If your student is taking a course through community college while they are a Longwood student, they're going to need to have a proctor, and we are the proctoring site on campus. So please just ask them to click on this link and to get in touch with us as soon as possible. There's a contact button here. There we are. There's a contact button if that works for them. If they would prefer, there's a staff button. As you can see, we have an enormous staff. Hopefully it'll be a little larger soon. But Dr. Claybaugh has an office right next to mine. He is the director of the Writing Center and the person in charge of tutoring, but I am able to answer questions, and as I said, we're right side by side, so we talk all the time, and when we're not talking, we're on email together. So please just let us know. Frequently asked questions, you're welcome to go to those. Generally speaking, I'm going to run through those pretty quick. Everything we do is free. Again, ease of access was the paramount thing. Really wanted ease of access, so I don't want somebody not being able to come because they have to pay for it. Students don't have to sign up. I tell them all the time, just show up, just go to the blog, or I'll help you go to the blog. We'll figure out where and when you need to be there. If your professor hasn't already mentioned it, just show up, and that's all you need to do. So there's hopefully nothing standing in the way, except the cold, perhaps. It's a little chilly here this evening, but nothing else standing in the way between themselves and getting help. And as you may have noticed, most of our tutoring happens in the late afternoon, early evening-ish sort of hours. And that's on purpose, honestly. One of the things, as someone who teaches regularly in the business school, I really do want to stress, we are not in any way, shape, or form instead of talking to a professor. When I talk to parents about academic strategies for students, one of the first things I say is, please get to know your professor. Please get comfortable with your professor. Early times in the semester are a real low-stress time to come. And it's a good time to meet them and find out what they're interested in, just have a little chat. Because sooner or later, many, many students are going to have to ask tougher questions. I really didn't understand the homework. Or I slept through class, we hope we don't hear this one too often. I slept through class this morning and I missed it, what was covered. I'm going to talk more about that in just a second as well. But those are the higher stakes conversations that happen. And hopefully it would never happen to your student, but sort of the highest stake question is, hi, Dr. So-and-so, I didn't do well on the exam. Can I talk to you about how to do better? It can be helpful if you've already established a relationship with the professor. We're not scary. We don't bite, honest and truly. We're in our offices a lot more than just our office hours. So if you're talking to your student about this and you say, so, have you gone to visit your math professor in office hours? And your student says, well, office hours are during class. That could very well be the truth. It happens all the time. But almost all of our professors are in a lot other than just their office hours. So you want to make sure you're not catching them just as they're headed off to class, because then they're going to be in kind of a hurry. But they're in a lot. And most of us at this type of institution really, really do value the interaction, the help that we can give our students. So please, please, please encourage those office hours, encourage working. We work alongside of and adjunct to these instructors. They all know about us. A lot of them, I've been talking to a lot of students the last couple of days, and a lot of the professors have our information, tutoring information on their campus site. So that makes me feel really, really good. I personally work with an awful lot of them, and we're trying all the time to revise and rework and rethink how we can best help not just your students, but how we can help our faculty. So it's a fun thing for us to be doing all the time. Second thing, after getting to know faculty, I would encourage students to have a study buddy in class. Things happen, you know, and even when you're in class, even when you're a good student paying attention, I've had this happen myself. You get stuck, you're thinking about something, you're trying to figure out how the professor moved from one step to the other, and you just have forgotten whatever it was that kind of came in between there, and you miss the next couple of things that the professor says. Or the professor is talking quickly, and the student is struggling to get everything down and make sure things are spelled correctly, and it can be really helpful to have a study buddy. Hey, you know, could I just take a look at your notes and make sure that I was getting everything down? When I work with students who are having trouble in a class, one of the first things I ask them is, please bring me your notebook. Let me take a look at it. I want to see what's going on. And a lot of times it's very easy for me quickly to see why they're beginning to have trouble in certain places. Problems will be partially completed. Sentences will be partially completed. I know it's hard getting all that stuff down. I do. I understand. We want to make sure that we help them as much as possible. Having that study buddy to help them can often be of assistance. Faculty can be of assistance. I'll tell you, some of us, myself included, some days we're working without a net, without notes. And so a student will say, well, you know, could you tell me what you did in the last 10 minutes on, you know, Friday the 19th? And I'm going, it's not that I don't want to tell them, it's just I honestly really don't remember. And if they can show me what I was doing up until that time, I pretty much know then what came in the next 10 minutes. But sometimes we don't have a printed copy of what it is we're working off of. So having another student in the class could be a totally wonderful thing. My view of life is the more study buddies you have, the better off. And it really helps in terms of, as it gets closer to testing time, you all can really be working together. I'm going to give a couple of really quick study testing strategies that your student might want to use, and it works really well in a group, very nicely. Obviously, one of the first things I would say for students is Please don't skip class. Please be there. Please be on time. I know things happen. That's why we have study buddies, hopefully. One really good thing, and students can report that this is challenging, and so I tell them, you know, you need to listen really carefully to what I'm saying. I encourage students as soon as possible. Those are the words that they need to listen to carefully. As soon as possible after a lecture is the best time to sit down and go back through those lecture notes, to check and make sure that sentences got completed, that paragraphs got finished, that questionable spellings get checked if that's going to cause confusion in the future, that when things didn't get written down or didn't get finished, you circle them, you make a star, you make a plan to either go talk to the study buddy, go talk to the tutor, go talk to the professor, find somebody, and make sure that you can fill in those notes so that everything is coming together very, very well. It is alarming how quickly we forget information, and so I encourage students to, rather than saving up all those notes for weeks and weeks and weeks and then needing to spend hours and hours and hours and hours of time the night before or 2 days before or 3 days before the test doing what I call cramming and probably staying up later than I would like for them to do, I love for them to keep going back over material on a constant basis. What they'll find is that this takes less and less time each time they go back over it, and there's more and more that has, I call it, moved down onto the hard drive, so they know this information. It's theirs to keep, and it helps them put new information, new facts, new pieces of understanding together with the old so that the course begins to make more sense as they move forward. And it also cuts down on the anxiety, cuts down on the stress, and as I say, cuts down on that, for lack of a better word, cramming that can happen as tests get closer and closer. Because that's not a calming, that's not a good way to study. None of us do our best if we're super stressed. A little stress is okay. Keeps us kind of perky, keeps us kind of interested. A lot of stress can be destructive. I want that to happen. So as soon as possible, after a lecture, go back, read through the notes, make sure everything is coming together really nicely. One of the, one of the best study testing techniques that I have ever tried, that I have ever experienced, that I've ever given out to other students. I've had student after student after student try it and report back to me later that it was the thing that made things come together and work for them. I like to do this as soon as possible. So for me, this is kind of a long-range project. I'm going to phrase it a little bit differently here. But I like for students to start this really, really early in the study process. So it could be 4 or 5 weeks before the test when they start this. That would be kind of optimal for me. But I'm going to talk about it a little bit differently. I play this game with students all the time when they come to talk to me. And I can tell very quickly whether they're as ready for a test as they think they are, or maybe we need to talk really quickly about some testing strategies, some study strategies close in. One of the things that I ask them is to think about your course and come up with, when I'm talking to a student, I'll usually use 5, but when I talk to them about doing this as a real activity, I'll use more. And I use this with my own students in my math class. And I'll say, okay, give me 10 topics that you feel are going to be on this test. Not questions, not problems. I want topics, very broad, very general. Okay. This is a good time when, if they have a study buddy or maybe 2 or 3 study buddies, Each of the study buddies can do this and share. And what I tell students is if everybody has the same general topics, then all of you are pretty much headed in the right direction. If not, negotiate. Why is it you thought that this one topic was going to be on the test and nobody else did? I'm not saying one person is right and another person is wrong. You'd be surprised about that. But it's a good negotiating time to explain yourself why you think that topic's going to be on the test. Step 2 then is to sit down and for each of those topics, think about writing a question in such a way that your professor knows for sure that you understand that information. And when I work with students, I talk to them a lot about Bloom's taxonomy and the fact that that lowest level, which is very much memorization, they may have had, and they may still see a few of those questions here in college. They probably had them a lot in high school. A lot of times, our professors are going to want to move a little bit higher up on that grid. And so I get them to try to think about synthesis, think about explanation, think about why certain terms, why certain phrases are important, how we use them, how they're connected to other things, how you compare. A lot of folks around here are interested in comparing and contrasting. So moving them a little bit up on that Bloom's taxonomy triangle. But then, especially if you're working in a little collective with your study buddies, trade off questions, trade off problems, and see how you do taking each other's test. And that can be a great way to see whether or not you're really as prepared as you hope you are. One of the things that I've been finding that I'm saying a lot the last couple of weeks as I work with students who are struggling in a couple of classes, this is more true for the problem-based classes. So here I'm thinking accounting, economics, I'm thinking chemistry, physics, math, language, oddly enough, will slide into this area a little bit too. Not so much the humanities, not so much even biology per se, but the type of courses where we pattern. And I talk to students and I say, yes, we're after understanding. We want you to understand how this subject works. We want you to understand how the piece of this subject works. Understanding sometimes takes a little while. And understanding may come, not right now in a flash of light, but it may come through hard work over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And you're working with professors who have been at this for their entire lives. And for a lot of us, that means a lot of years. For myself, that's a lot of years that I've been looking back at teaching the subjects that I teach. And so for me, it's much easier. Your student is approaching it from the front end. They're putting the pieces together. So yes, absolutely, the understanding is what we're all about. But we also want to be able to begin to demonstrate that understanding by being able to do our homework problems correctly, do our quiz problems correctly, do our test questions correctly. And so there's a patterning piece that goes on. So patterning to make sure that you've identified what the professor is asking for, what the problem is asking for. You make sure that you have exactly that type of question. And then looking at notes, looking at textbook, looking at anything else that is allowable and available, and learning how to move from a completed problem to one that needs to be completed. That's how we begin the learning process. At some point, here's where we get stuck. It's not the patterning piece that so many students have trouble with. Here's the piece where we have trouble. You're studying, you got your notes out, you're going over things. You got your notes out, you're going over things. At some point, you have to close the notes, you have to close the book, and you have to try to answer questions without them, because that's what's going to happen on the test. And that's another reason why I love my little study testing strategy, especially if you can round up, you know, maybe 2 or 3 other people and share your test with them so that everybody gets to try everybody else's questions and have a real, hopefully a real good chance to be happier once they go to take the test. As I said, I am very, very happy to work with students on time management. Structure in college is so different than it was in high school, and it really is a shock. I know it's a shock. There are these empty times for us that your student is just probably not used to yet. And I can help them learn how to make those times not empty. And again, help them manage their workflow a little bit better, help them reduce the stress level. I'm a big believer in balance. I want them to have time to go to the gym because that's good. I want to make sure that they get time to eat. They need to sleep. They need to have some fun time, some downtime. All of these things are important, but at the end of the day, we need them to be doing well academically so they stay here and continue to progress. So I am more than happy to sit and work with them to kind of work out that time management issue. I love to sit and talk to students about how to study. You know, there are lots and lots of different ways to study. Different people study for the same course in different ways. And the same person studies for different courses in different ways. So there's just this huge puzzle of different ways that you can study for different kinds of courses. I love talking to students about test-taking techniques. I tend to link them very closely to study techniques, but there are things that you can do to make testing be much better for you. There are ways to eat to manage testing better. I know it sounds kind of funny, but trust me, it really can work. So please, if your student is interested in that at any point, send them by the library. They can hit the contact us or the staff button. They can send us an email. I do work over email, but quite frankly, I love talking to students in person. It's a little bit more intimate. It's a little bit more to the point. When I'm working an email, sometimes I tell my students I need to look you in the eye and see if your eyes are lighting up, or if I missed the point. Did I say something that just didn't work for you? It helps me to see them. So I promise I don't bite. I give out nice chocolate. I would love to work with your student, and I'd love to answer questions. I probably talked too long, didn't I? Oh, okay. I tend to drone on a little while. I'd be more than thrilled to answer questions.
Oh, good. Rebecca, we do have one question from a parent, and that question is, what advice would you give a student who feels that his or her faculty member is unapproachable or maybe intimidating, and of course where the student really needs help?
Okay. I hear this a lot, and oh boy, do I understand. Really, really I do. Many of the faculty are my personal friends, and yet with a number of them, I can see why there is that intimidation factor. What I like to tell students is think of me as a bridge. Think of tutoring as a bridge. Please come talk to me, and I will help you craft ways to go and chat with that professor so that you don't feel so stressed. I do understand. But I'd be happy to talk to them. And again, tutoring is supposed to be that bridge. A lot of times And my own students will do this. And this is why I like to see them face to face so much. They'll come in and I'll say, okay, you know, what's not going right for you? And they look at me and they go, pretty much everything. Like, okay, we need to find a place to start. And I just sort of start walking through topics and I start gently asking questions. I can do the same thing for your student in that course. And the tutor can do it even better than I can. And what we can do is to shore your student up enough so that they are more comfortable going to the professor. Again, I don't want the professors to think I'm shutting them out of the picture, but I do understand your student's concern.
Great. Our next question is, what advice do you have for a parent of a student who needs help, but I really don't think the student is using any of their resources?
Oh my, that's a hard one. And it's one I encounter a lot. Quite frankly, a good little chunk of my time is emailing students who we know are struggling. And I beg them to come in, please come in and see me. I think I would keep asking, keep suggesting, keep trying to have those lines of communication open. One of the things I've found is that when I can solve a problem for a student, so a student has resisted, they didn't feel comfortable coming to me, they didn't think they needed help, and they get to the point where they're in crisis. If I can get them to come in, and if I can get them, if I can partially fix the situation, and I frequently can, at least partially, then they'll come back. I hate to say, sometimes it takes getting to a point that the student recognizes as a big deal. And that makes me ever so sad. But I'm not quite sure what else to say. That's not a happy answer, is it?
Thank you, Rebecca. That was our last question. So please feel free to send a chat to Rebecca or to Kim Redford, the host, if you do have another question. If that comes in the next moment or so, be happy to get those answered. I think the other thing, Rebecca, if you don't mind, that I would add to that last question was, while parents often, we don't encourage you all to contact faculty members directly, right? That's usually not a good, and actually I'll let you elaborate on that a little bit more. Go ahead with that.
I'm sure most of you have heard of FERPA, and we are actually not allowed by federal law to talk with anyone unless a FERPA release has been signed. And so on occasions, I have found myself saying to parents, I am so sorry, I cannot by law talk to you. And I'll get fired if I do talk to you without the release. But here's what you do. I am emailing your student this information. Please ask your student to go to their computer, pull up their Longwood email, and check the email that's coming in from me. And you stand over their shoulder and you'll have the answers that you're looking for. I don't know whether that's entirely legal or ethical, but it kind of works for me so far. I've never had a student who has refused to do that. Faculty tend to want to kind of just stay out of FERPA. And most of them, quite frankly, don't want to talk to parents. I got caught in the middle of it wasn't really a triangle, it ended up being a quadrilateral overbreak, and I had a faculty member who just finally said, not going to talk to anybody but the student anymore. He got to the point where he wouldn't even talk to me. He said student only. Faculty, and that was an extreme case. Faculty want to see interest from the student. They want to see connection from the student. They want to see the student wanting to succeed. A parent calling, a parent asking sounds like a student, or makes us worried that it's a student who's not interested. And that's very, very frustrating for families. What I would say instead is, please give me a call. Parents, family, friends, people do this all the time. Happens all the time. Faculty will do this with me, asking if I will check up on a student and see how things are going. So I get it from lots of different directions. And I can find information, and I want to make sure that your student knows that I am sharing it with you as well. It's very important for me when I talk to students that everybody involved gets the same information so that everybody understands. But thank you for asking the FERPA question. If you get a faculty member that says, no, I won't talk to you, no, I can't talk to you, for them, it is just their go-to position, and it's a little bit easier for them.
Absolutely. In addition to having Rebecca as a resource, all parents and families also have the Office of First Year Experience and Family Programs as a resource for all of the years that a student is here at Longwood, not just the first year. And parents and families are welcome to contact us at any time with any question. I like to say any question, large or small, especially the ones where you don't know who to ask. Yep. Give us a call first. I rarely am your endpoint or the expert in that area, but I do know campus and I do know the resources, and I'm happy to help connect you or maybe even serve as a mediator to get you those answers whenever possible. So.
And I tell students the same thing. Come and ask any question, even if you don't think it has any connection at all to academics, because in my mind, it very well could.
Absolutely. Well, I think that was all of our questions. So thank you so much, Rebecca. We appreciate your time this evening, and we welcome anyone to contact either of us following this webinar for more maybe personalized conversations or questions at any point. So with that, thank you all for joining in. I hope that you found this beneficial. With that, have a good evening.
Have a good evening and stay warm.
Yes, and we'll hear from you soon.
Take care.